And the post-election analysis here on TV3, your Election Command Center. The Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs has urged the New Patriotic Party to use its newly acquired parliamentary majority to push through critical bills that will improve governance in the country. The association contends that even though the wide majority may affect Parliament's checks and balances role over the executive, the outcome of the parliamentary election only represents the wishes and aspirations of Ghanaians. The New Patriotic Party so far has about 170 seats in Parliament in last Wednesday's general elections that was declared by the chair of the Electoral Commission, Madam Charlotte Osei. But how will these be done with a quick shift of majority from the NDC to the NPP? To help us put better understanding to this issue is Dr. Rashid Draman of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He's actually the Executive Director. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
With this story we're hearing, where there seemed to have been a major shift of political majority to the side of the New Patriotic Party, how do you think parliamentary debate and discussions would be?
Thank you very much for having me. I think that you can look at it from two angles. In normal times, we would say that this is not good for a democracy, because when you have an executive, of course, I mean a president with all the powers, and then Parliament where he has, I mean, a very good majority. I think we haven't seen this in a very long time. Then you would say that this is not good for a democracy, because we need some checks and we need some balances. And you have some checks and balances where, to a very large extent, people know that when I go take my business to Parliament, I would have to compromise. I would have to make sure that there are negotiations, there are gives and takes, I mean, from different sides. But so in normal times, this is not good. But we are living in abnormal times, if I can put it that way in quotes, in that I think the kind of message that we got on December 7 was a message of change. It looks like Ghanaians did not approve of the way we run our political business. And they came out overwhelmingly to send that message. So what it means is that the NPP would do well to use the majority in the interest of the people. So that's why I'm saying this could be good for our democracy, because then they could use the majority for good and not use it because they just want to have their way.
Wouldn't that good be relative? It will depend on who is saying it is good or bad. Because if the NPP sees something and thinks that this is good for the country, and they take it to Parliament, because they have the majority, there's a possibility they could railroad it, through. But if the minority or other people have dissenting opinion on that thing, do they really have a voice to put these checks and balances that you're talking about?
To a very large extent, I think that the minority today could use what happened to them on December 7, could turn it into their advantage by saying that we were voted out of power because people wanted to see a different way of doing business in this house. So you might as well just pay attention to that.
Right.
But I think we have a famous parlance in parliamentary speak that the majority would always have its way, but the minority would have a say. You know, what happens is that, yes, the minority would have a say and the majority can crush them. But I think every 4 years, citizens would have the biggest say. And I believe that citizens will be watching. So that if you think you have a majority and you can crush the minority and have your way, you would meet the voters on December 7 next 4 years.
But do you think that by then we would remember how critical are some of these things? Maybe when NPP was in power, one big issue, I'm talking about under former President Kufuor, the issue of the Vodafone, the sale of Ghana Telecom to Vodafone was very major. And even after it became a major issue going into the elections, that aside, there were several other bills that were passed and stuff. we may not remember all. So at what point do you think that the electorate will remember, because of this reason, I'm going to vote for or against?
But I think we are consolidating our democracy. And I believe that what is happening, what happened on December 7 is a combination of maybe so many issues from many years that people would wake up and say, today we don't agree with I mean, this line of thinking, this line of behavior, and so on. So the population might not remember everything, but I can tell you today in parliamentary development, one of the key things that defines whether you stay long in parliament or not is your record in terms of how you represent your people. And it's not just simply showing up in the constituency and doling out and so on, but you know, rising in the house and saying that on this issue I stand with my people, on this issue I stand with the people of Ghana. I think that, you know, a lot of the MPs who lost their seats, I believe on December 6th, if we had asked them, they were very confident that they were going to win. And that same fate can befall anybody. Any other person. Yes, any other MP.
And finally, in wrapping up, what would you say about majority MPs on the side of the New Patriotic Party who may be hoping to get ministerial appointments? Do you think, based on that and the fact that some would definitely be selected for ministerial appointments, they will be able to do the parliamentary business expected of them? No,
definitely no. I think the current minority leader has been on record, I mean, talking about the fact that it's not good for our democracy to have a fusion between the executive and the legislature. We've heard Honorable Bagwin, and when President Kufuor was leaving on the last State of the Nation address, he spoke very highly of the need to see this change. I just hope that what we were hearing from the current minority MPs, when they get into Parliament and they have majority, their rhetoric would not change. That they will pursue this agenda of making sure that we have a legislature where people go there to build a career as MPs and not go there to use that as a stepping stone to get into the executive. Currently, I think that that's what is happening. And because of that, it weakens their hands in terms of providing oversight, in terms of providing the much needed checks and balances that would ensure that you and I get the healthcare that we need, we get the education that we need, and most importantly, the vulnerable are taken care of in our society. Okay. I would have to leave it here, but certainly as the days roll by, I would be contacting you for more on your insights. We've been speaking with Dr. Rashid Draman. He is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. This is still Midday Live on TV3.